today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Some news from out of the women's welterweight and super welterweight divisions. We are delighted to announce Fight Zone UK today confirmed an agreement with the British Broadcasting Corporation, which will see its upcoming Friday 10th March event air live on their digital platforms. Fans will be able to catch the action on BBC iPlayer and on the BBC Sport app and website. The event is headlined by British female boxing pioneer and former world champion Hannah Rankin. This will be Hannah's first fight since having lost the WBA title to Terry Harper, who in 2013 became Scotland's first ever female professional boxer as she faces American challenger Logan Holler. It's a solid choice for a rebound fight. The WBA Intercontinental Championship is on the line in the co-feature when Wolverhampton's Kirsty Bavington, the reigning EBU welterweight champion, faces two-time world champion rival Candy Wyatt. We've already discussed Bavington versus Wyatt here on the channel. I wasn't even aware that Kirsty and Hannah would be boxing on the same show. Not up until this news broke. The resurgence of Hannah Rankin makes for some interesting fights, some interesting matches. We know that there were preliminary talks about a potential Natasha Jonas versus Clarissa Shields match of champions. I said it before and I'm saying it here again. I don't think Natasha Jonas stands much of a chance of beating Clarissa Shields. I think she'd be biting off more than she could chew in that fight. The silver lining is that talks for that fight have since slowed. A little over a week ago, I remember seeing some news that doesn't look to be happening. Shields versus Jonas. Rankin versus Jonas then becomes a possibility, a palpable possibility, so long as Hannah can get herself back in the winner's bracket, make her way past Logan Holler. I could see the people at Sky and Boxer putting together a fight between Natasha and Hannah Rankin. Don't forget that before Hannah actually shared the ring with Terry Harper, she was simultaneously in talks to share the ring with Natasha as well. As luck would have it, Terry ended up with the fight, but you see what I'm talking about. Natasha and Hannah were in talks for a fight before. They could soon be in talks for a fight again, provided that Hannah can get herself back in the winner's bracket. Doesn't look like Natasha's going to be fighting Terry. There doesn't seem to be any progress on that front for what could be the undisputed junior middleweight title fight between them. Just the other day, Steffi Bull, who handles the career of Terry Harper, stated, should have took the undisputed offer, champ, and the 400,000 G's. And once again, Natasha Jonas, she let it be known. She's not going to give Terry Harper or Steffi Bull the time of day. She's not going to give them the satisfaction. So if she's not fighting Terry, and it doesn't look like she's fighting Clarissa, maybe she'll give Hannah Rankin a shot. And if she doesn't, there are other girls out there for Hannah Rankin to fight, provided she beats Logan Holler. She could fight the winner of Mary Spencer versus Adriana Araujo. They'll have to make it worth her while, but it's a distinct possibility. Both Mary and Hannah are on the bounce, are on the rebound, attempting to get themselves back in the winner's bracket. And if they do, maybe they can fight. Mary Spencer suffered her first professional loss in her last fight opposite the ring former champion Femke Hermans, and Hannah Rankin, she lost WBA title to Terry Harper. They're both on the rebound. Maybe they can fight. There is still some good fights, some very good fights left out there for Hannah Rankin, depending on where she wants to go. Natasha Jonas, the winner of Spencer versus Araujo. I heard something about former WBC junior middleweight champion Patricia Bergult returning to action in her native Sweden in the very near future. Maybe Hannah can run it back with her. Patricia beat Hannah some years ago. Some years later, maybe Hannah Rankin would like to avenge that loss to Patricia Bergult, provided she makes it past Logan Holler. As stated, there's still a lot of good fights left out there for Hannah Rankin. She's just got to get herself back in the winner's bracket. That's the first order of business, set to go down this upcoming Friday. The rest of Scotland's own Hannah Rankin's career lies on the other side of the Logan Holler fight. Men's 136-pound news. Gervonta Davis took to his social media to announce that the press conference for the upcoming Ryan Garcia fight will be this upcoming Wednesday and Thursday. Tickets go on sale the day of the press conference. That's sure to get people talking. An actual press conference with both fighters present, both Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia simultaneously. There are reports by way of Showtime executive Stefan Espinoza that there's going to be a focus on promoting this fight by way of social media, on the premise that they intend to reach a younger audience. And we talked about that. A social media first kind of promotional tour as opposed to a multi-city tour. You know, something more traditional, more conventional, and more in keeping with the decorum for what is supposed to be a super fight. Social media, at least in theory, is one way to raise awareness about an upcoming match. Considering that Ryan Garcia, for example, he boasts approximately 9 million Instagram followers. If you could turn even just a quarter of that 9 million followers into paying customers, people that purchase the pay-per-view, I mean, just a fraction of Ryan Garcia's social media following, in theory, could make for some very robust numbers. But as stated, it's theoretical, experimental. Experimental because Ryan's never been on pay-per-view before. Gervonta Davis has approximately 5 times now, though in spite of having been on pay-per-view 5 separate times, he's yet to really put up robust numbers. I mean, he's yet to come anywhere near 500,000 buys, right, let alone 1 million. Right. The hope is that when you get 2 big names together, you'll get an even bigger fight than any fight they could have had separately. That's what the hope is. Social media first, though. Social media as the first line of promotion seems largely supplemental. Yet Stefan Espinoza claims there will be a focus moving forward on promoting this fight by way of social media as opposed to a multi-city show like what you used to. I mean, that's the tried and true method for super fights of old, super fights in previous eras of boxing, promoting them as a supplemental effort in tandem with a multi-city tour. I could definitely see how social media might help to raise awareness, but a focus on it, where you're primarily promoting the fight online in order to reach the younger demographic that perhaps follows a Gervonta Davis or a Ryan Garcia by way of their social media. What they're leaving out is that younger generation, that younger demo. You know, not guys in their 30s, mid-30s, early 40s. The younger crowd, the teens and tweens that frequently use TikTok and other social media platforms like Twitch, so on and so forth. These are very tech-savvy youngsters, you understand. Fully capable of... You know where to find illegal streams. Finagling an illegal stream that would allow them to watch this box office fight free of charge. I mean, I think that's what they're not factoring in to the equation. That's the caveat. How much disposable income do you imagine that this younger crowd has to spend on boxing? And even if they have the disposable income, who says they want to spend it when they're fully capable of going on Reddit, some other site that has any number of illegal streams? As stated, that's the caveat. That's the trade-off. That's what you have to worry about when you're attempting to cater to a younger audience. They're very tech-savvy. More hardcore boxing fan that really keeps up with the sport doesn't want to have to wrestle with a laggy stream ahead of what could be a very important fight, a major fight, a quote-unquote super fight. More likely to purchase it. Yeah, I think. I anticipate that irrespective of what it brings in at the box office, it'll do very well at the gate. Those in attendance, I think they're going to make a lot of money there. But on pay-per-view, it's a crapshoot. Very recently, news broke that last weekend's Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury fight brought in approximately 775,000 pay-per-view buys at the box office. Could this fight between Ryan and Gervonta top that? If it doesn't, it's a bad look for everybody. It's an indictment on Gervonta, an indictment on Ryan Garcia, and all of his supposed marquee value. It would be that 2 novices in Jake Paul and Tommy Fury could bring in more pay-per-view buys than Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia, what are supposed to be some of the sport's best and brightest fighters. Biggest stars. You are always hearing about how big a star Gervonta Davis is, and Ryan Garcia, he turns his nose up at everybody. And everything. He's the one running around saying that belts don't matter anymore. If you have this fight with Gervonta Davis, irrespective of the outcome, and you can't beat these 2 guys at the box office, Tommy Fury and Jake Paul. Oh yeah, it's an indictment on you. An indictment on Gervonta, an indictment on the powers that be, whoever promoted this show, whoever was in charge of that. You'll notice that for the most part, Showtime is in control. Showtime, who reportedly is going through belt tightening and budget cuts. You know, due to that whole situation they have with their parent company, Paramount. You wonder that the fight itself wouldn't receive better promotion if it were Golden Boy Promotions in charge of promotion and it were DAZN primarily distributing it. The Gervonta Davis PBC side of things, for the most part, they seem to be the ones that are in charge, but their broadcast partner's going through some stuff. And it just is what it is. That might also lend some insight as to why, instead of doing a conventional, traditional, multi-city press tour, moving forward, they want to focus on social media. Which is cheaper. What do you think it cost to conduct a Zoom call between the fighters or to post fight posters by way of their Instagram and Twitter accounts. What do you think that runs them? Not as much as conducting a multi-city press tour, I'd wager.
It's more expensive.
No, I don't think it's a coincidence that at a time when there are budget cuts, Showtime is focusing on a cheaper alternative to promoting this fight.
Social media.
Gervonta Davis says the kickoff press conference is going to be Wednesday and Thursday, but Stephen Espinoza did say they're going to use social media primarily, with a focus on it, to help raise awareness of the fight.
For it.
And we'll see how this experiment goes. This fight between Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia has been some years in the making.
There's already a good size amount of people aware of the fight. They hope to reach that many more wallets.
We'll see how it goes. And finally, in men's welterweight news, Bozy Ennis, the father and trainer of Jaron Boots Ennis, unbeaten up-and-comer Jaron Boots Ennis, urges Terence Crawford to pick up the phone and give him a call. Fight us.
I've long questioned the earnestness of the Ennis camp's desire to face Terence Crawford because no matter what they say in interviews, they seem to be guiding that fighter in another direction.
Little to no argument can be made surrounding Terence Crawford's permanent fixture amongst boxing's pound-for-pound elites, with title reigns spanning across 3 separate weight classes, including an undisputed run at 140 pounds. The current WBO welterweight titleist has seemingly solidified himself as a first-ballot Hall of Famer.
I can't tell you how many people struggle with that, no matter how many times I say it.
Terence Crawford's going to get into the Hall, whether you're impressed with him or not. The kind of dominance he's exhibited across 3 weight classes,
he's getting in.
Though after failing to secure a full unification bout against Errol Spence Jr. late last year, Crawford somewhat reluctantly opted to defend his crown against fringe contender David Evanesian. As expected, the Russian native provided Crawford with minimal resistance as he was ultimately crushed in 6 rounds. Now, at the moment, the 35-year-old is said to be in talks to take on mandatory challenger Alexis Rocha. News of Crawford possibly squaring off against Rocha next, however, was met by an incredulous look from Derek Bozy Ennis, father and trainer of highly ranked contender Jaron Boots Ennis.
Yeah, Bozy Ennis, Jaron Boots Ennis, they got a lot to say about Terence Crawford, but not a lot to do.
For a long while now, Jaron Boots Ennis has been fighting in IBF eliminators in order to climb the IBF's ranked standings. And those eliminators, they don't happen on their own.
Nothing does.
He was simultaneously, at least up until recently, ranked by both the WBO and the IBF, but becoming the IBF's interim champion, which is what they wanted.
That's what they were after.
That eventually saw him removed from the WBO's ranked standings because, as we all know, you can't hold a title with a separate alphabet organization and maintain a rank with another.
That's how it works.
He's the interim champion, the IBF interim champion, in possession of the IBF interim title. With no promotional ties shackling Crawford to a particular network and further complicating matters, Team Ennis would love to sit down and discuss a possible bout. While he doesn't believe that Crawford is eschewing his well-respected son, Bozy does have an inkling as to why they haven't been given a call. High risk, low reward, said Bozy during an interview with BoxingScene.com. They're going around us. Why y'all not going to take us? Fight us.
And this is where I lose patience with these guys.
You had a choice. You were ranked top 5 by way of both the WBO and the IBF. And what did you choose?
The IBF.
Whose eliminators have you been fighting in?
The IBF.
And whose interim title are you currently holding?
The IBF.
So that as soon as they put a microphone and a camera in front of you, you start acting like you're chomping at the bit to fight Terence Crawford. Your actions tell another story.
Do you really think they were fighting in all those IBF eliminators because they thought they were going to get Errol in the ring?
Or were they fighting in all those IBF eliminators on the premise that they thought Errol's about to move up and soon he's going to vacate the red belt? When he does, we'll be in position to catch it.
Were they after a fight? Or were they after a vacant title?
All while they keep telling you about how much they want to fight Terence Crawford. Bozy's insistence on Crawford facing them could be met with somewhat of a roadblock. In addition to Spence reportedly rekindling talks in the background thanks to Jaron's lopsided victory over Karen Chukatsian, the newly crowned IBF interim titleist is now positioned perfectly for a crack at Errol Spence Jr. and his unified throne. Presently, the smooth switch hitter is waiting by the phone for his next assignment. Although nothing is set in stone as of yet, Roman Villa, after scoring the upset victory over Rashidi Ellis, has been floated around as a possible opponent.
So take a step back and get a look at this. This guy has been fighting in IBF eliminators for well over a year.
Eliminators that don't line you up for a Terence Crawford fight, eliminators that line you up for an Errol Spence Jr. fight. At the same time, he's tabbed to face Roman Villa next.
But who's his father talking about?
He's talking about Terence Crawford. How much he wants to fight Terence Crawford. How bad they want to get Terence Crawford in the ring when your actions...
You're fighting in eliminators for Spence's belt. At the same time, you're lined up to fight Roman Villa. But who are you talking about?
You're talking about Terence Crawford, and you're doing it at a very convenient time to talk about Terence Crawford. Well after the order for him to satisfy his next mandatory challenger has already come down.
You're talking about this guy at a time when his hands are tied. He has to fight Alexis Rocha. He doesn't have a choice.
And even worse is that could have been you. That could have been Terence Ennis. You know that Terence Ennis was ranked several spots above Alexis Rocha, but his team and his handlers chose to go in another direction. They chose to go the IBF route.
Late last year, you had Virgil Ortiz ranked at number 1. Virgil decided to go the WBA route. Terence Ennis decided to go the IBF route.
And Keith Thurman's name was attached to an Errol Spence Jr. fight. Thus, Alexis Rocha was elevated by process of elimination.
So if what you really wanted was a Terence Crawford fight, you know what would have happened? When Virgil decided to go the WBA route, you would have been the next man in line. And you could have been the mandatory.
Then he wouldn't have had a choice. He would have had to fight you as his next mandatory challenger. And the onus to do the fight, the onus to pay for it, it would have been on Showtime because, in case you're not aware, Jaron Boots Ennis is exclusively contracted to box on the Showtime platform. He can't box anywhere else.
Terence Crawford is a network and promotional free agent.
None of this is hard to understand, despite a lot of people being woefully obtuse about it.
You can do a million interviews saying you want to fight Terence Crawford till you're blue in the face, but your actions tell another story.
And actions, as we all know, speak louder than words.
Your words.
What you wanted was to position yourself to pick up a vacant title more than you wanted a Terence Crawford fight, because if what you wanted was a Terence Crawford fight, you would have went the WBO route.
Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. You guys didn't actually think you'd get Spence in the ring going the IBF route. You thought you'd get a vacant title going the IBF route.
You were never after Terence Crawford.